give you a brief introduction to Matthew chapter 24. So for homework this week, please read Matthew chapter 24. And today we are just going to see if we can go over the chapter. That might not be possible, but I will pick out some of the highlights for you. But you will see something very interesting, and you can see that as the title of your lesson today, Wars and Rumors of Wars. Has anybody heard of wars and rumors of wars lately? I'm sure we have. Well, we've been hearing of wars and rumors of wars ever since I was born and even before that. But it's interesting to see how excited people get when the war is actually taking place or just about to take place. And almost with every large-scale war, everybody begins to predict the end of the world. Now, I see a good thing about that, because the end of the world can come at any time, and we should be ready, and people get all excited. You all remember what happened during 9/11? Okay, during that time, people got very interested in religious and spiritual things and things regarding the Lord and the church, and attendance spiked for a while. But I do not want our interest in Jesus and all the spiritual things that pertain. I don't want our interest to just spike, and then when it's over, our interest goes down. You do not know when the Lord will come. And that's something you're going to notice in Matthew chapter 24. Matthew chapter 24, I'll tell you quite early, is dealing with judgment. Now, if we can understand that, it's appointed to man once to die, and after that, the judgment. But judgment should be on our minds at all times, because we do not know when it's coming. But let us dive into the chapter. Matthew chapter 24, beginning from verse 1, it says, Jesus left the temple and was going away when his disciples came to point out to him the buildings of the temple. But he answered them, "You see all these? Do you not?" Yeah, I'm getting it. Okay. "You see all these things, do you not? Truly, I say to you, there will not be here one stone upon another that will not be thrown down." When I read about the building of that particular temple, it was a wonder. And sometime later, I will try to describe that temple. But there was actually plates of gold on the walls and on the pillars. And it's just hard to describe the magnificence of that particular building. It just comes to mind to let you know two things. Before we got to Matthew chapter 24, I think it's in Luke. Prior to that, there was a lady who put in a penny in the collection, right? And Jesus spoke about that, and he said, everybody else put in from their abundance, but this woman who put in that penny put in all that she had. It gives me a chance to say that the Lord just doesn't want a contribution from you. God is not poor. He needs everything, or he wants everything that you have. And he wants you. So let's keep that in mind, because connected to this, and you look at the temple, well, what could that penny contribute to the physical temple? But Jesus wasn't looking at that. That woman put in all that she had. So While she's doing that, people are distracted with the temple. Look at the temple. And we have some magnificent physical worship buildings around us today. But God is not focused on that. He's focused on the heart. Remember, the church is the temple of God. And who forms the church? Of who does the church consist? All of us. So if there's a beautiful building, that beautiful building is us. The physical building is a facility which should be properly kept, of course, but it should never overshadow the temple of God. Corinthians tells us that you are the temple of the Holy Spirit. So just remember that. But anyway, looking at that, now Jesus is saying, not one stone will be left upon another. And now that's some negative preaching right there. But again, let me go just before that. As we read Matthew chapter 24, I want you to keep in mind, Jesus is talking about judgment on Jerusalem, but he is also talking about his final coming, his second coming, when we will go to meet him. Okay? So let's try and get back to it. Matthew chapter 23 and verse 37, Jesus is appealing to Jerusalem, to the people, because they have rejected him, and you can see how much they rejected him in the book of John. But look at the few verses before that. Matthew chapter 23 and verse 37, Jesus says, "O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. How often would I have gathered your children together as a hen gathers her chicken, her brood under her wings, and you are not willing." They rejected Jesus. So when you reject Jesus, then judgment comes upon you. Judgment comes upon the individual, it comes upon the group, it comes upon the collective when Jesus is rejected. This city, this nation rejected Jesus. You can see that in John chapter 12. And then you'd see the predicament of rejecting Jesus. So what happens to your household, your city, your nation, you as an individual when Jesus is rejected? It says, "See, your house is left to you desolate." Now, you know what desolate means? You know, sometimes I'll give you it comes nowhere near. But you ever have a party at your house? You have a party and you have 20, 30 people and they're all eating and drinking and having a good time. And then time comes for the party to be over. Party's done. That's the end of it. Although some people, when they go to a party, they never want to leave. But when it's time to go, people go. And all of a sudden, within 20 minutes, the house is empty. Doesn't it really feel empty? You know, during COVID, I think Houston was desolate, if you want to say that. Okay. So here, when Jesus says your house is desolate, he's speaking about the nation. He's speaking about the Jews, even about the temple that will probably be taken away too. But your house is left desolate. Your nation and your worship and your temple and all your rituals have stopped. It's desolate. That's a bad predicament. For I tell you, hear what Jesus says. They reject him. And Jesus says, look, for I tell you, you will not see me again until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. And then, after that, Jesus says, concerning the beautiful temple, not one stone will be left here. Not one stone upon another that will not be thrown down. And it's a big, strong beautiful, expensive building. As he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, "Tell us, when will these things be? What will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age?" And Jesus answered them, "See to it that no one leads you astray. Because concerning the coming of Christ, brothers and sisters, many are being led astray with various teachings." Okay? And they try to point to the calendar or the almanac and try to tell you what date, what time, what year. He's coming next week, he's coming next month. And they're also telling you, let's go here, let's go there. Just recently, we had a very, what it does, it goes viral. There was something on social media that Jesus was coming somewhere, he was landing somewhere in Nigeria. Somewhere in the woods in Nigeria. There's that video.
Ghana.
In Ghana?
Ghana.
Oh, in Ghana. So I hope none of us took a trip to Ghana, because he did not, he didn't come. Did he come, Isaac? No. All right. So people will be led astray. Now, how we can avoid being led astray? We can avoid being led astray by listening to Jesus and what he has to say. Many will come in his name saying, "I am the Christ," and they will lead many astray. Now let me stop. Let me try and slow down. Go back to the question that was asked. Tell us, when will these things be, and what will be the sign of your coming? Don't get dogmatic and bogged down with just one straight answer to that. When will these things be? When will what things be? When will what things be? When the temple is destroyed. When will these things be? What will be the sign of your coming? It's still, when will these things be? Because it says "and." So they connect, okay, the destruction of the temple with the coming of Christ. Now let me tell you something else. In the scriptures, you're going to see the day of the Lord, the day of the Lord, the day of the Lord, a number of times. The day of the Lord does not always mean the judgment day or the final judgment when Christ will make his final return. There are many days of the Lord, and that is judgment upon a particular nation, when God punishes that nation. So you could look at the destruction of Jerusalem as the coming of the Lord. Okay? But there is a final day. There is a final judgment. Verse 6. Okay. So many will come saying, "I am the Christ." Now that's not necessarily a sign. And I'll tell you why. Even in the days of Christ, even after Christ died, during that time, there were people who were coming and calling themselves messiahs. Okay? In the book of Acts, you have people who said, "I am the Messiah," or got many followers. They went out into the desert and they were all destroyed. And that was not only the one time. Even in our modern day, there are people who present themselves as messiahs. So is that a sign? If I were to say, "Jesus is coming," and then I said, "There will be a lot of rain." Is that a sign? It rains. Although we could do with some more rain. So we'll try to figure out what is a sign. Okay. We go on. Many will be led astray. Verse 6. "And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars." Have you ever heard people say, "Wars and rumors of wars"? Jesus is coming anytime because there's wars and rumors of wars. I have heard wars and rumors of wars ever since I was born. Our history books are filled with wars and rumors of wars. I think what Jesus might be saying, things might be happening as normal. Things will happen as normal because he told you, "Do not be alarmed." Now, you can take that two ways. As a minister, a preacher of the gospel, when it comes to the things of God and the coming of Christ, I would like to see everyone alarmed. But it's the right kind of alarm. The alarm that causes you to be more faithful to Christ. If you are alarmed in that sense, okay. I had a bit of an alarm this morning because the time changed. So from the time I woke up, I was alarmed. It's not 7 o'clock, it's 8 o'clock. And when it was supposed to be 8 o'clock, it was 9 o'clock. So I was alarmed, okay, and I was in a hurry. And I pushed everybody into the car. If your head goes first, too bad, but I was alarmed, all right? But in that way, on the other side, when Jesus says, don't be alarmed, don't be panicked to the point where you're not functioning as you should. Don't be in a mental state of disarray because you hear these things. Because Jesus said, these things must take place. And guess what he said? He said, the end is not yet. Nation will rise against nation. Oh, so when nation rise against nation, Jesus is coming? Nation have been rising against nation ever since after the flood. Okay? So let's go on. Kingdom against kingdom. Famines and earthquakes in various places. Is that new, brethren? Not new. So I don't consider that to be a sign that Jesus is coming. Or a sign. But let's go on. All these are the beginning of the birth pains. Things are going to happen. They're going to deliver you up to tribulation and put you to death, and you'll be hated by all nations for my name's sake. I think it happens to a lesser degree, but that's only as far as my knowledge is concerned. But it happened throughout the Christian era. From the time Jesus was crucified up to the end of the book of Acts, up to 100 years after, these persecutions still took place. I think it really calmed down in the year, around the year 313 with, what was his name? Constantine? Right. Okay. He said, many will fall away and betray one another and hate one another. You see, because people are afraid of persecution, many will fall away. Many will turn against each other. Many will report each other. Many false prophets will arise. Do we have false prophets today? Since when have we had false prophets? If it's a sign ever since you were born and before your grandparents were born too. And because lawlessness will be increased, the love of many will grow cold. Things will get hard. Things got tough. The love of many grew cold. Don't you suffer in many various ways? Haven't you prayed and asked God to help you? And you haven't seen your desires fulfilled yet, and you get discouraged, and your love grows cold. My admonition, the admonition of the apostles, don't let your love grow cold. Okay? Don't be so discouraged that your love grows cold. Sometimes I get a little discouraged too. Don't be surprised. Don't be shocked. I'm flesh and blood. All right? Okay. And I think I said to Glenn, you know, I had older mentors and preachers that I could go to and talk to and tell them what I was going through. I mean, I can come to you, brothers and sisters, but certain people have certain rules and they do certain things better than others. So I got my encouragement from 3 preachers, and they all died. So to who do I go? Well, I trust a smart guy like Glenn. Oh, you still have other people you can go to. I look at him. Who can I go to? He said, you have Peter, you have John, you have the Apostle Paul. And I thought, oh, thank you very much. You know. But I understand the spirit in which he was going. You know, I still have God's word, and I still have the word of the apostles. Okay, do not let your love grow cold. You're going through certain persecutions whether it's home, whether it's at school, whether it's at work. Don't let your love grow cold. Talk to the brethren. Get engaged in the activities of the church. Get engaged in Bible study. Do the things that Christ wants you to do. You think you're going through a hard time? You know, one remedy, something that I can give you as therapy for some of your situations and problems, help somebody else. You'll see how fast your problem might just disappear. There are people who are doing just as bad or even worse, but you become very useful when you can help somebody, encourage somebody. Your situation does not have to be perfect for you to encourage somebody else. Well, I'm going to wait until all my problems are gone, and then, Christy, you're going to hear from me. Well, you'll be waiting a very long time, because none of us here, our problems will ever be gone until we go to meet Jesus. So with all that happening, in verse 13 he says, but the one who endures to the end will be saved. That means you have to go through it. You have to endure to the end. Now, yet none of these are signs, because all of these have been happening throughout life. And then now he says, and this gospel of the kingdom will be proclaimed throughout the whole world as a testimony to all nations. Then the end will come. End of what? I'll tell you this. By the time that the temple was destroyed in AD 70 and Jerusalem was ransacked and invaded by the Romans, by that time, the gospel had gone all over the then known world. Paul said that in Colossians chapter 1 and verse 23, that the gospel has gone throughout the world. That's what he said. Now, I don't want to get all geographical about that, and you'll ask me about strange countries I never heard about, okay? But that's what Paul said. So the gospel was placed all over the then known world. It's just like today I can say, the gospel has gone over the world, all over the world. I can say that. But you will find a little village or a town or a city where, hey, nobody's been there. Okay? But in general, the gospel had gone over the world, and it has the capability of reaching throughout the world. But here's another point. When we hear all these things that are taking place, have taken place, and are still taking place, but it is not the sign. So, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by the prophet Daniel standing in the holy place, let the reader understand the abomination of desolation. Just a brief preview. Daniel spoke about the abomination of desolation. Briefly, let me tell you, abomination is when God's holy place and holy things are disrespected, right? It's just one example. Let us say he has a temple. No, I didn't want to use the word temple. Altar, where sacrifices are made by the Jews, where Israel does its sacrifice, offers things up to God, and then they erect a statue of an idol. Can you imagine? Or an unclean animal. Like they decide they're going to offer up a pig on that altar where the Lord's sacrifices are offered. That is an abomination. And Daniel spoke about it. Daniel prophesied, and it's not in the Bible. It's historical. About 160 something BC, Antiochus Epiphanes, a historical name, you can look it up later on, he desecrated the temple, and he desecrated the altar, and he destroyed the temple along with the altar, God's holy place. Now what that tells you, what's the message here? The message is that God is not pleased and God is not happy, and God will remove his spirit. So it's telling me also, as the temple of the living God, when I do things to his temple, that's my body, When I do things in my body, I desecrate the Lord's temple, and God is angry in very mild terms. But if you desecrate the temple, disrespect the temple, God will destroy you. He will remove himself and you will be destroyed. Whether it's an individual, whether it's a nation, you will be destroyed. So when you see the abomination of desolation, so that was going to happen. It happened when Daniel prophesied it, and now Jesus refers to it. It's going to happen. And it's going to happen to that beautiful temple that the disciples were telling Jesus, look at all these beautiful places. He said, let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let the one who is on the housetop not go down to take what is in his house. And let the one who is in the field not turn back to take his cloak. And also for women, we just hope that you're not pregnant. Pray for your flight that it might not be in the Sabbath. And he says that will be tribulation that the world has not seen. In short, the city was surrounded. The city was under siege. You couldn't go in, you couldn't come out. So at some point, people began to starve. They ran out of resources and people were starving. And I'll go more in depth in that sometime later on. And in those days, and unless those days be cut short, no human will be saved. But for the sake of the elect, the days will be cut short. The Jews did not want to leave Jerusalem. But I'll just tell you, something happened and there was a break. There was a pause where you could get out of Jerusalem. And Christians chose to leave, and maybe some others as well, but they left, and thank God they did, because that was their last chance before Jerusalem was completely destroyed. So what is the sign? When you see the armies surrounding the city, that's the sign. So what's my point this morning? My point is, we have to be prepared, we have to be ready. I'm not saying the armies are going to surround our city, but I'm telling you something is going to happen. There'll be a follow-up to all this, but at the end of the day, Jesus had just this one thing to say. Concerning that day and hour, no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, nor the Son of Man, but the Father only. You cannot tell me all what I just said was signs. You cannot tell me that, because I just told you that it happens all the time. It has to be something unique and something particular that you don't see all the time. That is the sign. Now, when you see judgment, judgment is a sign. It's a warning that one day there will be a final judgment. And I'll tell you this, brothers and sisters, I do see some things that I wanted to say silly things, but it's serious. You ever see a house on fire and somebody wants to go back and get their cat? You ever see a house fire and somebody has some jewels or something and they want to go back in and get it? And they are strongly advised, don't go back in there because the house is on fire. Brethren, we must not be so turned, we must not be so, in love with this world or the things of this world that there's a coming judgment and we are tied up in achieving worldly comforts. All right? Jesus is calling us to get out of this world. Not take a rocket. No, not that's what he's saying. Get out of this world in a spiritual, mental, psychological, and emotional way. He's saying, get out, and he's saying, come to him, focus on the Lord, focus on Christ. There is a coming judgment. And at the beginning of our lesson, Jesus was saying he wants all of us to come to him, and we should not be like the Jews. Okay? He said, "O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it, how often I would have gathered your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you are not willing." Are you willing to come to Jesus today. The gospel